Welcome to Deep Dive Podcast channel. Today we're stepping into something pretty familiar for many of us, anxiety. That knot in your stomach, the mind that just won't stop racing. But what if, instead of just seeing it as this enemy we need to fight, what if we could understand it differently? Could it actually hold some kind of hidden wisdom, maybe a message that's trying to guide us, not just, stop us in our tracks? Is exploring these kinds of inner depths and maybe turning challenges into opportunities sounds like something you're interested in? Please do subscribe so you don't miss our future deep dives. And just know, this is a safe space here. We really aim to explore these complex feelings with understanding and care. Your thoughts, your experiences, they're definitely welcome in the comments below.
Yeah, absolutely. And today our focus is really on digging into the psychology of fear and, importantly, how we might shift our relationship with anxiety. Can we potentially transform it, turn it into something like purposeful action? We've looked at some sources that explore the nuances here, the neurology, trauma-informed approaches, that kind of thing.
Right. And one key thing that jumped out is this distinction between fear and anxiety. We often lump them together, don't we?
We do, but there's a subtle difference. Fear is generally understood as that immediate response. Something is happening right now that feels threatening. Think footsteps behind you in the dark.
Okay, very present moment.
Exactly. Anxiety, on the other hand, tends to be more future-oriented. It's the mind anticipating danger down the road, even if nothing's actually happening.
Oh, okay. So fear is the fire alarm going off now. Anxiety is worrying it might go off later.
That's a great way to put it. Both are fundamentally protective mechanisms, of course, but the issue in modern life is that this anxiety system, well, it can become overactive, wouldn't you say?
Definitely feels that way sometimes. So how does the brain actually handle these signals? What's going on in there?
Well, a key player is the amygdala. You can think of it as the brain's emotional smoke detector. It's constantly scanning for potential threats.
Always on alert.
Pretty much. And when it flags something, whether it's a real danger or just something our mind interprets as danger, it triggers a whole physiological response.
The racing heart, the fast breathing.
Right, the tense muscles, that laser focus, it's preparing you for action. But then you also have the prefrontal cortex, the more rational part of the brain. It tries to step in, assess the situation, manage those initial alarm signals.
So it's this interplay between the quick emotional reaction and the slower, more thoughtful processing.
Precisely. And this leads to those classic responses we all know. Fight, flight, or freeze.
Right.
But our sources also highlight a fourth, less commonly discussed response.
Fawn.
But what's that? It involves trying to appease or placate the source of the perceived threat to avoid conflict. Think of it as trying to de-escalate by being agreeable or helpful. It's often about seeking safety through connection, or rather, by avoiding disconnection or disapproval.
Huh, that's really interesting. Appeasing is a survival strategy. It adds another layer, especially to social anxiety, maybe.
It certainly can, yes. And a really crucial point here that our sources emphasize is that the brain often reacts the same way, whether the threat is objectively real or just perceived, just imagined.
Wow, okay. So worrying intensely about, say, a presentation can feel physically almost the same as facing an actual immediate danger.
The physiological response can be remarkably similar. Your brain believes there's a threat, so your body reacts accordingly. That's why anxiety can feel so intensely physical and real.
That makes so much sense. And it seems like other emotions can get tangled up in this too and sort of amplify the anxiety, like shame.
Oh, absolutely. Shame is a powerful amplifier. If we have experiences where failure or even just perceived imperfection led to feelings of unworthiness or rejection, then the fear of experiencing that again can become deeply tied to anxiety.
Right, fear of feeling that shame again.
Exactly. And this can lead us to develop certain protective strategies. Things like perfectionism, the drive to be flawless, to avoid criticism or failure.
Or that feeling of needing to do absolutely everything yourself, hyper-independence.
Yes, that too. Trying to control everything and rely on no one as a way to avoid potential judgment or letting someone down, which could trigger that shame.
But these strategies, the perfectionism, the hyper-independence, they sound exhausting. And maybe they end up causing more anxiety in the long run.
That's the paradox. These protective mechanisms can actually keep us stuck. The constant pressure of perfectionism or the isolation of hyper-independence can become chronic sources of stress and anxiety themselves.
And trauma, too, must play a huge role in how sensitive this whole system becomes.
A very significant role. Trauma can essentially rewire the brain to be hypervigilant, to constantly expect danger, even when things are objectively safe. It's like the threat detection dial gets turned way, way up and stuck there.
Okay, so the system's on high alert, maybe amplified by shame, leading to these protective but ultimately unhelpful patterns. What does that look like in daily life? Avoidance.
Avoidance is a big one, yes. Procrastination, too. And rumination, that endless cycle of replaying worries in your mind.
The mental hamster wheel.
Exactly. And these behaviors might offer a tiny bit of relief in the moment you avoid the scary thing, but long term, they actually reinforce the anxiety. They teach your brain that the thing you avoided is truly dangerous and that avoidance is the only way to cope. It creates a negative feedback loop.
Right. So we avoid, feel a little better temporarily, but the underlying fear just gets stronger.
Yeah.
So we understand the mechanics a bit better now.
Right.
How do we start to shift this? The sources talk about reframing fear, right?
Yeah.
Not seeing it as just bad.
Yes, this is a really crucial turning point. Instead of automatically fighting or suppressing fear and anxiety, what if we could get curious about them? What if we saw them as data?
Data. How so?
Like a flashlight. Anxiety often points towards something you care deeply about. Maybe it highlights a value that feels threatened, or a boundary that needs protecting, or even an unmet desire or aspiration. The fear is there because something important is at stake for you.
Ah, I see. So instead of get rid of this feeling, it's more like, okay, feeling anxious.
Yeah.
What might this be telling me? What matters here?
Precisely. It shifts you from resistance to curiosity. And that opens the door to techniques like cognitive reappraisal.
Cognitive reappraisal.
Yeah.
That's about changing how we interpret things.
Essentially, yes. It's about consciously examining those automatic anxious thoughts and challenging them. Are they 100% true? Are there other ways to look at this situation? By changing your interpretation, you can actually change your emotional response.
So like, instead of, I'm definitely going to fail this presentation, maybe shifting to, okay, presentations are nerve-wracking and I might stumble, but I've prepared and it's a chance to practice, even if it's not perfect.
That's a perfect example. It's not about pretending everything is rosy. It's about finding a more balanced, realistic, and frankly more compassionate perspective, gently questioning the catastrophic thinking.
That makes sense. Not forcing positivity, but finding nuance. And what about the body? We talk about how physical it feels. How do we work with that? Somatic intelligence.
Yes, tuning into the body is key. Anxiety isn't just in your head, it lives in your body. Learning to notice the physical sensations, the tight shoulders, the clenched jaw, the fluttery stomach without immediately judging them.
Just noticing.
Just noticing initially. Practices like grounding can be really helpful here. Intentionally feeling your feet on the floor, the chair supporting you, bringing your awareness to the physical present. Or body scans, where you gently bring attention to different parts of your body, noticing sensations without needing to change them.
So it's about building awareness of those physical signals first, understanding the body's language.
Exactly. And once you have that awareness, you can start to explore ways to soothe and regulate your nervous system when it feels activated.
Okay, how do we do that?
Well, understanding something like polyvagal theory can be helpful, even in a simplified way. It talks about different states of our nervous system, a safe and social state, a mobilized state, fight, flight, and an immobilized state, freeze. The goal is to learn techniques that help gently guide ourselves back towards that feeling of safety and connection.
Like what kind of techniques?
Things as simple as slow, deep breaths, especially lengthening the exhale. Humming or singing can actually stimulate the vagus nerve, which promotes calm, gentle movement. Even just orienting yourself to your surroundings and noticing things that feel neutral or pleasant.
So it's about actively helping our bodies feel safer, even when our minds are still feeling anxious. Creating that internal anchor.
You've got it. Building that capacity for internal safety allows you to experience the sensation of fear or anxiety without being completely swept away by it.
And that leads into another idea mentioned, mindful exposure.
Yeah.
Facing fears, but gently.
Yes. Mindful exposure is about gradually and intentionally approaching situations that trigger anxiety, but doing so in manageable steps. You don't dive into the deep end. You start small, with something that causes maybe mild discomfort. And crucially, you do this while using those self-regulation tools, grounding, breathing, to stay present and manage the anxiety that comes up. The goal isn't to eliminate anxiety instantly, but to learn that you can be anxious and still function, that you can tolerate the discomfort, and that the feared outcome often doesn't happen or isn't as bad as predicted.
It sounds like building courage incrementally.
Yeah.
Testing the waters, proving to yourself you can handle it, step by step, while having those tools to keep yourself steady.
That's a great way to describe it. Building tolerance and resilience. And ultimately, this whole process, the reframing, the somatic awareness, the mindful exposure, it allows us to start seeing fear differently. As the sources suggest, maybe fear isn't a barrier after all. Maybe it's more like a compass,
A compass pointing towards what?
pointing towards what you value, towards growth, towards authenticity. Often the things that scare us are linked to things we deeply desire or care about. Starting a new project, having a difficult but necessary conversation, setting a boundary, the fear is often there because it matters.
Right. The fear signals that something significant is on the line for us. It's not random noise. It's connected to our values.
Precisely. Recognizing that connection can shift us from automatically avoiding the fear to getting curious about where it might be guiding us.
Okay, so this is really about moving from being paralyzed by anxiety to taking action, even small actions aligned with what matters. How do we bridge that gap? What are the practical steps?
The sources outline a kind of process. First, name the fear. Acknowledge it without judgment. Just see it. Okay, I'm feeling fear about X.
Just naming it.
Second, regulate your body. Use those grounding or breathing techniques we talked about to bring your nervous system back towards a state of relative calm, or at least manageability.
Okay, name it, regulate.
Third, reframe your thoughts. Gently challenge those catastrophic predictions. Find a more balanced perspective.
Right, the cognitive reappraisal bit.
Fourth, break it down. Whatever task or situation is triggering the anxiety, break it into the smallest possible steps. What's one tiny thing you can do?
Make it less overwhelming.
Exactly. And finally, fifth, anchor in your values. Remind yourself why this matters to you. What deeper purpose or value is this action serving? That provides motivation and meaning even when it feels hard.
Name it, regulate, reframe, break it down, anchor in values. That feels like a really actionable pathway. It's not about becoming fearless, is it? It's about learning to act alongside the fear.
That's the core insight, I think. Learning to listen to the fear, understand its message, regulate the intensity, and then choose actions aligned with who you want to be and what you care about.
You are not the fear. You are the one observing it, learning from it, and choosing how to move forward.
Beautifully put.
So we've really taken a deep dive today into the psychology of fear and this potential for transforming anxiety into purposeful action. We've looked at those key differences between fear and anxiety, how our amazing brains respond to threat, and importantly, some practical strategies for shifting our relationship with these really powerful emotions.
And I think a really crucial takeaway, maybe the core message from our exploration, is that fear doesn't have to be the enemy. It can actually be a messenger, maybe even a guide. Learning to tune into it, to understand its language, rather than just being overwhelmed by it, that can really point you towards a more aligned and meaningful life.
That really lands. And it raises, I think, a really important question for you listening right now to maybe reflect on. What could possibly open up for you? What might become possible if you started viewing your anxiety not purely as a barrier, but perhaps as a signal pointing you towards something significant in your own life?
That's a powerful question to sit with, and we really encourage you to continue exploring these ideas. Maybe consider which of the strategies we discussed today really resonated. Was it the cognitive reframing, the idea of somatic awareness, tuning into your body, or perhaps that gentle approach of mindful exposure, which feels like it might be a helpful next step for you?
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We genuinely hope this exploration offered some, maybe some new perspectives or some practical tools you can experiment with. As always, we invite you to share your thoughts, your reflections, any further questions you have in the comments below. This is really a space where we learn and grow together.
It truly is. Until our next deep dive, please take good care.